Hey, Craig.
It's all on you, it's all on me. Can't you see? It's all on you, it's all on me. You and me, can't you? It's all on you, it's all on me.
Hey, Craig. Right or wrong, we don't care. Win or lose, we don't care. We don't care. We don't care. We don't care.
This is the part where you start talking, Craig.
Hey, Jeff.
I'm like, is he gonna start? Is he gonna start talking? Is he gonna say something? No.
I forgot what time when it starts fading. But yeah, hey, it's another. This is since we started the podcast. This is the most wins we've had in a season. So this is the
yeah,
eighth.
It's true.
Winning podcast. Although we didn't record one after City, or one of the wins because there was a bye after. I think we might have missed it. But anyway, so this is the most wins since we've started the podcast. We started in 2019. So 8-1, which is just kind of wild to think about because like every week we're kind of seemingly a little underwhelmed by the performances, and then it's like, well, we're 8-1 and we're ranked 18th in the college football playoff, and I don't know. After last year, losing a hell of a lot of games in a row, and having just a miserable time in that football season, it's real nice to win. And we will talk about that win here in Podcast versus Everyone, episode what, Jeff? 229?
229.
Episode 229. It's not on the screen anymore. I am Craig Powers. With me, as usual, is Jeff Newser.
Hello.
And Jeff, how about that Utah State game?
Woo.
You definitely didn't fall asleep during it, did you?
No.
It was
definitely
riveting
did not.
the entire
definitely
time.
Did. Yeah. I'm definitely not an old man now for that. But before we get to Utah State, by the way, wanna like announce a couple of things that are going on. Not like behind the scenes, but like, just kind of having to do with peripheral things with the show. So one of the things is, so if you are listening to this on a podcast, then, as we've mentioned a few times, we are also now recording video while we make the show. So we are uploading those to YouTube. If you just, search for Podcast versus Everyone on YouTube, you'll find it. If that's, if that is a way that you prefer to consume content that is like you like that sort of thing, you want to see our faces, our gorgeous, beautiful, handsome, bearded faces, bespectacled hats and faces, you can find us on YouTube. But yeah, Craig's got a great anthracite hat today. I'm rolling with the white, with the crimson, the white baseball cap with the crimson W and Bill. So you can find us on YouTube now if you want to watch us with the show. When you do that, you get to see, facial expressions, and also we pour our beers at the beginning, right? And we like kind of bob our heads to the intro music. It's like once upon a time when I
spill a beer.
Yes. I keep holding my beer like kind of up like this because I want to do it in front of the camera. And then I'm sitting here thinking like one of these days I am absolutely like something's going to slip out of my hand and there's going to be beer all over my computer, but it hasn't happened yet. We've been doing this for about a month now. Has not happened yet. And when we did just the audio, I would just insert the music afterward. I'd be like, "Hey, Craig," and then we'd just sit in silence for 3 seconds, and then he'd be like, "Hey, Jeff," and then later I'd just drop the music in during the silence. Well, now we gotta play the music live, and we gotta fill our time. So we pour our beer and sip our beer, and then awkwardly bob our heads like. What was that old SNL sketch, right? The guys who went out to the dance club, and that's sort of what we look like, right?
I don't know what it was called, but it was
me either.
Was a Night at the Roxbury.
Night at the Roxbury, yeah. That's
Chris
right.
Kattan and Will Ferrell.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
one of the changes.
And we changed our primary social network.
Yep.
Because fuck Elmo, Elmo,
Yep.
Elon, whatever the fuck his
Yep.
name is.
Yep.
So we have moved over to good old Twitter Jack's new venture. Not that new at this point, but now everyone seemingly has moved over there in the last couple days.
Yes.
Blue Sky.
Yep.
And on Blue Sky, you can find me at craigpowers.podcastversuseveryone.com.
Yep.
And you can find Jeff at NussCoug, N-U-S-S Coug .podcastversuseveryone.com.
Yeah.
Pretty cool that we can kind of verify ourselves, Jeff, and I appreciate all the effort you put in to get us those little podcastversuseveryone.com usernames.
Well, like on Twitter, people are familiar with Twitter, right? You get the little blue check. Once upon a time, the blue check mark was actually meant something, right? Like
That's
you
what we
would.
paid $7
Yeah, it was
for,
something that you would get if you were, someone of note, and it was important that people know like your information or whatever was reliable. And then of course, Elmo did whatever he did, but it's like now, like on Blue Sky, I can tie our handle to our website, which is kind of like a little piece of verification. So that's actually very cool. I got to be honest, having the Noose Coug handle back, it just kind of feels like coming home a little bit for me, So that's all good. And you alluded to it, right? Like, it's just Twitter has become such a cesspool. It's not a healthy place. And then beyond that, to be honest, like even if it wasn't that, just a lot of the utility of Twitter is kind of gone away too, right? Like it's so hard to like find people to interact with, not find people, but like the interactions don't really match up. There's not a ton of engagement. The algorithm has been tweaked to really like boost the people with the blue check marks. And so, just kind of all that, like it's just, when you post something there, a lot of times it just kind of feels like you're just dropping something into the void unless the algorithm decides that you're important for whatever reason on that day. And so Blue Sky has been kind of refreshing in that, it really is, at least right now, all actual people. And it seems like a pretty healthy place right now. The block function's great. And, especially kind of post-election last week, right? Like that's really welcome. And, look, people noticed we didn't have a show last week. It's no secret where Craig and I stand on things. Like, if you make, I don't know how many people make it to the end of the show, but if you make it to the end of the show, like, where we're at. And so last week was, a pretty huge bummer for us, just in the sense of, and, I don't know, we're not a politics podcast. I'm not going to go too far on this, but I will say, like, what's really hurting me, and I know I kind of speak for Craig on this as well, is that, look, people we care about are going to be specifically targeted by policies in this next administration. They're going to be targeted for harm. And that's the part that that really just hurts me and hurts my heart. I work in public education. People know this. I work with kids and families who will be specifically targeted for harm by this next administration. And that is something that I can't just smile and nod through. So last week was a huge bummer. And so coming back this week, I just want to say, listen, if you are one of our listeners or watchers or whatever at this point, and you are part of one of those communities that is going to be targeted over the next 4 years by this administration, like, I just want to say to you clearly right now, man, we stand with you. We are here next to you.
Yes.
This is a place that is supportive of you and your freedoms. And it's, we are not going anywhere in that respect. And if you're listening to this and you're like, well, keep the politics out, you know what? Honestly, fuck you, because these are real people with real lives and they're going to be targeted for harm. And if you can't deal with that, and you can't deal with a couple of podcasters saying, I'm not going anywhere, my gay friends, my trans friends, my friends of color who are going to be targeted, I'm going to be right here with them. And if you don't like that, then I guess you don't have to listen to our show. But that's where we stand. So I don't know. I probably put Craig on the spot with that right now because I didn't tell him I was going to do that. But I feel like that's super important, that those people who are going to be, under the cosh a little bit over the next 4 years, that they know they have an ally in me and they have an ally in Craig. And that's more important than making people who voted the other way more, comfortable with their vote. So.
Yes. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you saying all that. Yeah, so you can find us on Blue Sky. Honestly, we'll probably Jeff's always been honest about his thoughts on things on there. I'm a little more honest about my views on things on Blue Sky than I whatever was on Twitter. Also, so real cool thing, Jeff has started a Coug starter pack. If you're worried about not having a Coug community on there, Jeff started a Coug starter pack. There's like, I don't know, a lot of Cougs on there. So
there's like about 70. I think I'm up to like 65
Cougs,
or 70.
You follow
accounts,
those Cougs. Yeah. A lot of them will follow you back. You'll instantly have like 70 plus people to talk to. You can also join our Coug Center Slack.
Yeah, you can do that too.
Did I say Coug Center? Fuck. Podcast.
You did say that, but that's okay.
You can't join the Coug Center Slack. That's still way too exclusive.
No, sorry.
No, the Podcast versus Everyone Slack, $5 a month or $50 a year. If you join as a premium member, you can join our Slack, and we have about almost 100 Cougs in there, around 100 Cougs in there.
We got over 100.
We have a real nice. If you're missing that community, if you're sick of Twitter, but you're missing that Coug community, we got that. Or you can come join us on Blue Sky as well. I think we're starting to get that fired up as well.
It's good. Yeah.
But anyways, so all that, Jeff, dropping that truth bomb on us there. So let's no worries, man. I love it. I love it, dude. You know I feel the same way. So Utah State. I was there. I took my 6-year-old. It got colder and colder, even though I was up kind of covered in the but still was cold, and then it started raining. But it was, WSU's had a few of these games this year now where they're just expected to win, and they get out to a big lead, and then they seemingly kind of coast.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like you're just annoyed when the other team does anything.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I think we were all like, when WSU scored that late touchdown to go up 49-21, we're like, okay, that's fine. Like,
this looks
I'm
good.
fine with this. And then they give up that 75-yard run. And honestly, like all the stats like are so messed up.
Everything got fucked
only
up
by
now.
21.
I know.
By 21. I think there was some 20.5 spread, but maybe someone got it higher. They got effed by that.
Yeah.
I don't know. But you look at like yards per rush, like WC was doing pretty good in that. They were like 26. It was like around 4, and then it's almost 7 yards per play. WC was doing pretty good at that. Probably they're around 4.5 yards per play. Yeah. And then now they're at 5.5. Like, so, and it was basically like backups on backups. And the guy gets his first carry of his entire career.
Goes 72 to the house.
72 to the house, whatever. Yeah. So ridiculous. It was, that definitely put a damper on things. But and overall during the game, it was like, there was some big moments. But after after WSU built the lead, it was kind of like they're just trying to like run out the clock, which I can understand as a strategy. Just to save your guys. You're trying to get to that 11-1. You're trying, you don't need everything to beat Utah State at home.
No.
And even the second half, they gave up a couple touchdowns, but it was never in danger. That game was never at any point that game in danger, or never did it ever feel like it was in danger. That's probably why it was a little boring at times, because there really was like no like Ken Palm has the that excitement level factor. Like it would be like zero for that game. Yeah, because like there was no point. Like, and then like a lot of people missed like the biggest play, Wayshawn's 75-yard touchdown, because they were either at the stadium and like outside or stuck in the Cougville or trying to get back to their seat, or they were didn't flip back in time or whatever. So
still taking a leak or whatever.
I know. I kind of looked up and I was like, "Holy crap!" Because I was, I had my 6-year-old. I was paying attention to her.
Yeah.
But, and she watched a lot of Pokemon during the game. She enjoyed that.
I'm sure she did.
Made it about a half a quarter, and then she was like, "Can I have the tablet?" And I was like, "No." She made about midway through the second quarter. She goes, "Daddy, I want to take a video with my iPad." I'm like, "Oh." or iPad. She calls it her iPad. It's just a cheap Kindle tablet. So I'm like, oh yeah, you could take a video.
Yeah, no problem.
But, I hand it to her. She's taking a video. I'm locked into watching the game. Next time I look down, Pokemon.
Yeah.
I'm like,
that video,
dude.
that video she was taking lasted about 3 seconds, dude. You got played so hard.
Yeah.
Kids are smart, man. They are smart. They know how to get what they want. They love that.
But as like frustrating as that game was at times, and I feel like this team could. It seems every game you feel like this team could be better than they actually. The result outside of like the Tech and the UW game. Like after that, every game it's been like they'd be better than this. But outside of that, I mean, it's hard 8-1 with your one loss being to a number 13 team in the country
on the road.
Like that's on the road. Like that's just it's wild to think about. I know obviously our schedule is easier than it has been in like
ever
65 years or something.
Like maybe ever.
Yeah. Like since WSU rejoined the PCC and we weren't playing Idaho twice a year. And it's been a long time since the schedule was this easy. Yeah. But hey, they're winning the games. They're winning. How can you complain? Like,
I know it's so weird.
That's when we were watching at this point. We're like, I mean, you and I didn't. We had us at like 7-8 wins when we did our percentages.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I think a lot of that is because we didn't factor in how bad the Mountain West is, and factor in that this team was going to beat UW and Texas Tech.
Right.
Like so.
Like once you got those in your pocket, then it was like, okay, we could be looking at double digits.
But yeah, the Mountain West. I mean, Utah State. We're really playing like 3 of the worst teams of the last 4 games here.
Yes.
Utah State, real bad. New Mexico's better than Utah State, largely because they have an offense. Oregon State is not very good, but they'll be the best of the last stretch here.
Yeah.
And you're in Corvallis, and that they'll have a good crowd, and they'll definitely want to beat us. It's the Pac-2 championship, and then Wyoming is real bad, and so it's hard to get up for these games, like get excited, but I'm just trying to like we are 8-1, we actually have stakes, like it is an outside chance of getting to the playoff. And I haven't let you talk at all, Jeff. Sorry. It's an outside chance.
I did a lot of talking a little while ago, so it's all good. It's all good.
It is an outside chance of getting to the playoff.
Yeah.
But it is a chance. You're 18.
It is. It is.
Look, there was some crazy losses that happened this last weekend that allowed WSU to move up 3 spots. That can happen again. Like all this could happen again. It will take a lot. WSU will obviously have to win their last 3 games. There is no other way to the college football playoff without that. There's no fucking way a 10-2 WSU team's getting into the playoff.
No.
11-1 still a long shot, but there's still. Jeff, do you have the percentages, or do you have the FPI?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at right now. Our percentage. So, as maybe counterintuitive as this seems to people. Our odds of making the playoff have actually gone down via ESPN. Now, we do need to like sort of huge caveat, right? Like this is a new system this year. We don't know exactly what they're going to do or how they're going to do it. I mean, we have some ideas. We know what they tend to value, right? We say it kind of over and over again. It's a made-for-TV product, so they're going to do their decisions are going to be made based on what's best for the TV product, right? They're not going to go necessarily on most deserving, right? That's how Florida State got left out last year. Florida State was deserving. Florida State was not, because they were missing their quarterback, probably not in a position to provide a competitive television matchup. So they were
that quarterback meant a lot.
Yeah, apparently. So, so there's that. So, for whatever, like it's a huge grain of salt with the ESPN predictions and their percentages and whatever. My guess is just sort of like guessing and thinking what would make the most sense is that their percentages are tied to the likelihood that we will that any team, not just us, but any team will ascend into like the top 11 or 12 of their strength of record metric, which probably pretty closely lines up with the way the top 12 have been ranked by the CFP committee over the last, however many years that they've been doing the sort of extended rankings, right, for all the New Year's Six bowls and stuff like that. So because the teams we're playing suck, and also because the teams we've beaten who were supposed to be pretty okay are not winning enough, Texas Tech, Washington, especially Washington, right? Fucking Washington.
I think Tech is about what we thought they were, probably a little better.
Yeah. But they had, they had a real chance. They had a real chance to help us out by beating Colorado this last weekend, and then they didn't. So,
Colorado's pretty good.
Colorado's pretty good. So, we've really just sort of stubbornly been stuck at about like 21-22 on ESPN's strength of record. We keep winning, but we're playing horrible teams, and so beating them, it doesn't even matter if you beat them by 3 or 4 touchdowns. That doesn't really move the needle. You're supposed to win by 3 or 4 touchdowns. And then, like I said, we're not getting a lot of help from the teams we've already beaten. And then, of course, we lost to the team that honestly would actually help us. Like we'd be in better shape if we had lost to Texas Tech or Washington and beaten Boise State. If we were sitting here at 8-1 and we had a win over Boise State and a loss to Washington or Texas Tech, our playoff chances would be a lot better. But it's not. So, right now they're putting us ESPN puts us at about what they think is about a 50% chance of winning out the last 3 games, which I think is low, but their metrics don't really like us. S&P Plus also doesn't really like us. I have a separate theory on that, just super fast. I think you alluded to it. We tend to sort of manage these games. We're not going for broke trying to win these games by multiple touchdowns, 4, 5, 6 touchdowns. We're kind of managing. I think even the road games, against Fresno State, against San Diego State, it seems like we're spending a lot of time offensively, especially just kind of making sure we don't make a big mistake, right? Somebody pointed out on Slack today, it's been now not to jinx, but it's been a while since John Mateer's thrown an interception. Okay. So is that John Mateer has all of a sudden just figured out how not to throw interceptions, or is that John Mateer not taking risks and being ultra conservative both with play calling and throws? And I would argue you may have another idea on this as well, being that you were kind of sitting in a spot where you should be able to see pretty well. But it sure seemed like he was very, very conservative. There was one throw, I know there was one, where Kyle Williams had his guy beat by 2 yards on a post, and Mateer just could not pull the trigger, ended up throwing an incompletion underneath. So, are we really, as ESPN's FPI says, are we really the 53rd best team in the country? I don't think so, right? I don't think that's true. I think we're better than that, but I also think the metrics maybe aren't sort of capturing, kind of what's happening with the fact that we're playing these bad teams, and we're just basically trying to figure out what's the safest way to beat bad teams, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I do. It definitely feels like I said Utah State, they take their foot off the gas once they got a big lead. They scored on their first 3 drives.
And it was boring as hell. It was 5-yard plays, horizontal throws. Yeah. That's how I ended up falling asleep. I'm just whatever, man. This is boring as fuck. Which is a weird thing to say because we're winning, right? So I should be excited. I should be thrilled. Instead, I'm just God, this is boring, Anyway.
On that Mateer point, obviously, I've seen the last 2 games from up high. I also saw Texas Tech from up high. We saw Washington down low, but we could still see down the field. Mm-hmm. Mateer's completion percentages against Tech, we didn't throw that much against Tech, but it was low. His completion percentage against UW was 50. But in those games, he would take shots. And against Portland State, he took shots. These games lately, you look, you're up, you get that kind of all 22 when you're up at the second deck, and there's Kyle Williams is open all the time down the field. Guys are open all the time down the field. He's not pulling the trigger on them that often. Probably trying to avoid a mistake. Maybe he doesn't feel that confident as deep ball, which I think anyone would say that's not his strength by any means.
Probably the weakest part of his game.
And so he's just afraid to underthrow it. He does underthrow those a lot, and that is where you throw picks. He did underthrow one and threw a pick against UW. So I think, I think he's probably just avoiding those. I bet there's also a little bit of coach telling him to make sure it's there.
And I want to point out, like, I'm not even saying this is necessarily the wrong approach. Like, this might be the right approach. It's not very entertaining sometimes, but maybe this is the best approach. I just am like, I don't know. Sometimes it's kind of boring.
Yeah, sometimes it is. And that was seriously, Utah State was like the longest game of all time. There were so many stoppages.
That third quarter was insane. That third quarter, that's part of why I kept falling asleep, man.
That third quarter was over an hour long, and it was just like, this game is over already. Like, what are we doing? And we stayed till it ended because my kid was happy as could be watching Pokemon. She didn't even want to go inside the club at halftime to warm up. I'm like, come on, let's go warm up. She's like, no, I'm good.
She's like, nah, I'm comfy.
Like,
I got this.
Like,
Come on, Daddy needs a drink.
Like,
you got to come up.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm very a different experience for myself. I was sober at the end of the game and could drive my kid back to our friend Marty's place. And so I was like, so I didn't like, normally, like, whenever that big game, I'd be like 12 beers in and be like, let's go.
Woo, go Cougs.
When I had the kid, I was like worried that she ate enough, Oh, by the way, the club, I don't know if they have it downstairs, a big ass bowl of mac and cheese. Like it's like white cheddar mac and cheese. It's pretty good.
Okay.
And it fed both of us. I almost bought two, and then I saw them make the first one. I was like, no, that's enough. Like, I'm sharing with a 6-year-old. She's only gonna eat 3 bites. But like it was an interesting experience. I'm glad to be covered and not rained on.
Yes.
That was nice. But it was and she had like so much space, and she had like her little table to watch her tablet on, and so we had, forgot to mention, we had from Cougar Collective, I had won an auction for 2 sideline passes before the game. And those allow you to stand on the sideline until the team runs out with the fireworks and the band and everything. So my kid, I told her that, like, we're gonna stand down here till the fireworks run out. She was just fine. Like, well, she was a little overwhelmed when we went out. Like, I got a picture with Ryan Leaf, and she's like hiding behind me in it, and so I'm slouching down.
Yeah.
I am as tall as Ryan Leaf, I promise.
Yes.
So I'm like slouching down. Which bummed me out. I wanted a picture of me being as big as Ryan Lee or whatever.
Yes.
Bigger than him now because he's like actually in shape.
Yeah.
But then she enjoyed like watching the players practice. One player, one of the linebackers, I can't remember which one, like gave her a high five. So she was so excited about that. She was just sitting down on the field watching them warm up for the game. But I said, like, okay, they're going to do it, the fireworks, and there's going to be big fire. They're going to come out of those. She's like, I don't want to be down here for that. I don't want to be down here.
Yeah.
So she's
like, no, too much.
Went off the field. And so she did not appreciate that. So we went up to our seats to watch that part. And she kept, like, there was quite a few, there were 7 touchdowns in there. So they lost fireworks every 7 times. She's like, why is there so many fireworks? I'm like, they scored another touchdown.
Her and Joshua, man, the only 2 kids on earth who are like, why are there more fireworks? Every other kid's like, fireworks.
Fireworks.
Right?
Yeah,
she's like, well, no more fireworks, man.
She's not paying attention. She has her headphones on watching the thing, so I can't even warn her. I would just like put my hands over her ears, but like that wouldn't even matter. But so we did that. That was fun. But the whole weekend was cool. Obviously, nothing but wins, and we'll talk about basketball in a little bit, and soccer and all that. But like, it was fun. She had a lot of fun. I'm glad we did that.
It's a kick-ass weekend,
it was a good
man.
Time. Yeah, absolutely. But so WSU football, I'm not going to New Mexico. I don't know how many Cougs are. I think
too much trauma there, man.
There's some PTSD with that field.
Yeah.
But not against New Mexico, who WSU has only played twice, and it was while I was in school, back-to-back years, and they won like a miraculous game at New Mexico. I remember watching.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I have no recollection of that. I have no recollection whatsoever.
Yeah, like Swagger to
None.
I can't remember who caught the game-winning touchdown in like the last minute. But then it was just like a beatdown in 2003, obviously in Pullman. But yeah, so this is only the third time WC's ever played New Mexico, which is interesting. All the Mountain West teams we play, and we've only played New Mexico 3 times.
It is a little weird.
Yeah, or twice. It will be a third time. They reason to be concerned is definitely their offense, their quarterback and their running back.
Yep.
They have a real talented quarterback, especially with his feet.
Yep.
I think he's very much a dual threat QB. And they are averaging almost 40 points a game. That is you. At this point in the season, it doesn't matter who you are. Like it's not just you're playing shitty teams. Like you put up 40 a game. That's great.
Well, can I make you feel? Can I make you feel a little better?
What?
They're actually averaging 33 points a game. So maybe that makes you feel better. I don't know.
Because you're not counting Utah Tech.
Yeah, they're giving up. Yeah. They are giving up 40, almost 40 a game though.
Okay, so we're looking at. So I'm looking at their stats for every game. But what you're looking at must not include their game against Utah Tech.
Maybe.
Because I'm looking at college. I'm looking at college football stats, CFBstats.com. I am looking at UNLV. My bad.
I was gonna say that's what I'm looking at, buddy. Yeah.
All right. My bad.
Okay. But you're not wrong though. I mean,
my brain is gonna explode.
They're off. You're not wrong. The offense is good, right? Like they had a stretch. They had a 3-game stretch where they scored over 50 points. 50 points in all 3 games. Now I don't care who you're playing. If you're scoring over 50, that's good, right? They did it against New Mexico State, Air Force, and Utah State. Now we can all agree those are 3 fucking horrible teams, but also they did it, right? And then a couple weeks later against Wyoming, they scored 45. So those are good things. On the flip side, they scored 6 against Colorado State, and they scored just 21 last weekend against San Diego State. Now, maybe they did put up a whole ton of yards against San Diego State. Turnovers really kind of screwed them there.
Same thing against Colorado State. They put up
lots of yards. Turnovers really messed them up.
Yep.
So I think there's some good things there to take away from that. I think number one, our defense is good at taking the ball away. If they just philosophically they are set up. We've talked about this before. Philosophically they are set up to make a team execute over and over and over and over again if they're going to beat them. And the idea is, I think, in general, the other team's going to make a mistake at some point, and then we're going to capitalize when that happens. And we've shown that we do that defensively. The quarterback's real good, explosive, like both with his arm and legs. So, whatever, but also mistake prone, right? So I do think, this game really could go a couple of different ways. One is it could be, I think we could blow them out. Like I really do. Yeah. Just in the sense that I think our talent level is much higher. I think that, they scoring 50 against New Mexico State, Air Force, and Utah State, and also almost Wyoming, not the same as playing against us. Our defense is not amazing, but our defense is at the very least above average at this point and nowhere near the ballpark that those 4 teams are in. So I think there's that, right? But then also, if they decide not to turn the ball over in this one, then, maybe they can put up some points. Yeah. And we've talked about this before. The offense, for whatever reason, struggles a ton on the road. I don't know why. I don't know if it's play calling. I don't know if it's nerves. I don't know if it's just crazy randomness, but they don't play as well on the road. So I think when you put those factors together, this game could end up being kind of a nail biter. I don't think it's a I don't think it's like a trap game scenario because I don't think anybody's overlooking anybody. But also, like, you can kind of look at it and go, there's a lot of reasons why you could think this game might be uncomfortably competitive.
Yeah. I will say, so I'm not going to trust this offense until they actually show they can put up points on the road.
Yep.
But this defense is a magnitude worse than San Diego State's and Fresno State's. It is significantly worse than UW's.
Yes.
It's significantly
New Mexico's
worse
defense.
than Boise State's.
Yeah.
Yeah, New Mexico's defense. It is one of the worst defenses in the country.
Yep.
And it doesn't against the run, against the pass. They are 126th in EPA or rush, 133rd in EPA a drop back.
They're really fucking horrible.
They're 123rd in the number of drives where they give up a first down inside the 40. That's an ECHL. Talk about that ECHL rate. They are 121st in points at ECHL, and so that they're giving up points when they get teams in the end zone. They are bad on early downs. They are bad on third and fourth downs. They are just fucking bad. This is an awful offense. And if we can't score points on this, our awful defense, and if we can't score points on this defense on the road, then we seriously have issues on the road.
It's weird.
This is like a stress test in the opposite way of how bad is your offense actually on the road, because this is a terrible defense. Teams that can't score much have scored against a bunch on them. It's bad. But on the other side, like you said, their offense, they could give us trouble if they'll turn the ball over.
Yeah.
They have good success rates. They're in the top 21 in both rushing and dropbacks. They have good drive. They drive into opponent territory often. They convert at an average rate. They are good on early downs because they can run the ball, and that's usually how it often goes. Dampier and the running back, they both probably going to hit 1,000 yards this year. We're going to give up some yards to them. WSU's rush defense has not been good. So they're going to give up some yards to them, but it's going to be, are they going to generate turnovers? Are they going to finish drives? That's going to be the big thing. Can they make them pay when they do decide to pass?
Yeah.
Can they get an occasional stop those runs so they can force Dampier into passing downs where he's making those mistakes and where he's a lot less effective? So that's big. Now, the hope is they just score enough to where none of that matters. And it's just because if you were like what if I'm looking at College Football Insiders, which is Stats of War on Twitter's stuff, Parker Fleming's stuff, they have WSU as 96% to win, 46-24 projected score.
That's such a huge fucking number, man. I don't know
Bill
where he
Connolly
comes up with that.
Bill Connolly has it 41-24 WSU
Yeah.
SP plus.
Yeah.
So these are like the advanced stats love WSU in this one. The advanced stats have them covering a spread is around 13, 14, 13 and a half, something like that.
It has actually come down a little bit. It's like 11 or 12 in most places now.
Probably Cougs fans fans betting that down. Could be.
But you're right. So I'm looking at the prediction tracker, which sort of aggregates a whole bunch of different models. And the aggregate says that we are 16 to 17 points better. So that's kind of right in line with what SP Plus was saying there. So there's obviously this disconnect between what the models are saying and what the betting markets are saying right now. The betting markets are probably thinking along the same lines as we are, man. We don't play as well on the road, right? So models aren't going to figure that out. We don't play as well on the road. Tend to play a little closer on the road. New Mexico's got a pretty decent offense at times. I guess that's what they're thinking. I don't know. I waver back and forth, right? As we're thinking about like predictions here, like I waver back and forth. I think like on the one hand, I think, oh my God, super dangerous game. But on the other hand, like I'm thinking like we are clearly much better than New Mexico. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess I would say like it's kind of funny. Like it's more. I guess I'm more thinking of it like, okay, there's some percentage of, if this game's played 100 times, there's some percentage where it is competitive and New Mexico makes it like uncomfortably close. That's like, I don't know, maybe 10% of the contests, right? And then like there's probably like, I don't know, 30% of those contests or 40% of those contests where like we're like, comfortably ahead but not blowing them out. And then there's like 50% of the times, if we play this game 100 times, where we just roll over them, right? So as we're thinking about like, I guess we can go on to predictions. If you want to be like, Jeff, what's your prediction? I mean, you can do that if you want. Do you want to do that?
Jeff, what's your prediction?
Okay, great. I think I have to lean toward like what I think is like the 50% of the time, which is like we just kind of kick their asses. Maybe there's the 1 out of 10 where it's like weirdly close. And I do think that the ingredients are there for that, but I have to go with like what I think is the more probable, the more probable game development or however I want to say it, which is just like, we just kind of kick their ass. And, I think the only thing that really could kind of get in our way, as we've been talking about all night, is ourselves, right? Like if we score a couple of quick touchdowns and they don't, do we dial it back? Which has kind of been our MO. And again, maybe that's not bad strategy. I don't know, man. Like of course, a fan, I want points. I want to beat teams by 5 touchdowns. Like I want all that. I'm not a coach. So the coaches are, more pragmatic. I on some level, I think that being pragmatic will bite us in the butt at some point, but also like, is being pragmatic against, New Mexico, is that going to bite you? Is being pragmatic against Utah State, is that going to get you? Probably not, So maybe, being pragmatic, probably the way to go. But I also think that we could blow them out. So I'm going to pick WSU. I'm going to pick us to cover. I'm going to pick us by like 3 touchdowns. I'm going to say 45-24 WSU.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm thinking, even if WC's going conservative against this defense, they could still move the ball because they could still run those short passes. The New Mexico only had 10 sacks on the year, just 1 sack a game. I'd be curious to see what the breakdown is of which games those came in. But yeah, so this is not like Boise State where, there's gonna be a lot of pressure on Mateer. This is not, or even San Diego State. They had a little bit better defense overall than New Mexico, like quite a bit better. This is it. I'm still like nervous, but I think New Mexico's gonna put some points on WSU's defense, especially at home. It's gonna be a big game for them. They need this for bowl eligibility. They're 4-6, so they got it. They're done with bowl eligibility if they don't win this game.
Yep, that's a big deal.
So I think they're gonna do some stuff offensively. I think it will be a little bit closer, but WSU wins a little comfortably. I'm gonna go a 38-27 WSU.
Okay.
So yeah, I hope they just come out and whoop them, and I don't want to be nervous. I hope I'm so bored watching this game. Also, WSU at this point, some style points wouldn't hurt.
Yeah,
especially with a game in the middle of the night on the East Coast.
Yeah,
and just being able for them to, when they're only going to look at the score and
yeah,
whatever.
And by the way, when WSU wins by multiple touchdowns, be sure to send Craig your "What an Idiot" gifts.
What an idiot! Because I only picked them to win by 11.
All right, should we do beer real quick before we go on to basketball?
Let's do beer real quick before basketball.
Okay.
All right, Jeff. What are you drinking?
All right. So if you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing I'm holding up my beer can right now. I got the Hop to Go Fresh Hop IPA with Centennial hops by Urban Family Brewing.
HOPTOGO. Sorry, I had to think about how to do it.
Okay.
So if you're watching, you saw me try to attempt a hot to go dance with Hop to Go.
Yes. It didn't really work too great though, but it was good. I liked it. I liked the effort. Like your hop to go dance. The beer's not really great either at this point. This beer's about 6 weeks old. It was canned on September 25th, so actually about 7 weeks old at this point. So not super great. It is okay. Yeah, not a huge fan. I mean, obviously I knew I was kind of taking a chance, right? By picking this up from Rainier Growlers over the weekend, thinking, all right, it's kind of the last of the fresh hops. But I will say the other one I picked up was a fresh hop from Lucky Envelope, and I drank that over the weekend, or I drank that the other night, a couple nights ago. It's fantastic. That was still really good. So for whatever that's worth, this one's fine. It's fine. So there you go. What about you, buddy? Oh, by the way, before you start, I need to show you something. Okay, so you sent me a text a couple weeks ago, which I went ahead and showed to Sarah, and of course, folks who know my wife, which most of you don't, but Craig does, know when something gets planted in her head, she goes ahead and goes for it. So, Craig, I want to show you right here. Look what I got.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay,
Very
so
cool.
if you're only listening to the podcast, right, I'm gonna have to do like the alt text version here. So Puffin, whenever we do the beer stuff, I take a picture of my Old Crimson Lager in my Puffin koozie, which is like I don't know, the one I usually use. So I'm holding that one up right now. It's like a flannel. It's got a zipper on it, which I love. And then they have come out with college branded ones. And Craig, I had an idea like a week ago that I should contact Puffin and like see if we can be like affiliate influencer promoter guys for Puffin on these, but apparently Sarah was too quick on the gun. So now I have one. But it's a crimson hoodie with a WSU logo. Sorry. Crimson hoodie with a WSU logo in the middle, where my Old Crimson Legendary Lager is staying nice and cold during the show.
I think they also have a gray one that has the Cougar script, if I remember
They do.
right.
Yes, they do. Yeah, it's beautiful. So
yeah.
All right. So there we go. I was so excited to show that to you. What about you?
Very cool. I'm surprised it got there so fast. Like
That came really fast.
Yeah.
I was like,
so I
showed it to Sarah, and 2 days later I had one on my desk. I was like, what the hell? Okay. That's cool.
I'm glad that you also are still diving into the fresh hops, because I still have a fresh hop where it's like not letting it go this year, man.
Yes.
This is from I don't think a brewery that I've had very often. It definitely one that I have not had on this pod here today. Brewery and Kitchen, Electric Sculpture, very cool can.
Ooh, yes, I like that.
Love that color. Love that kind of like
it's beautiful
80s,
can design.
80s futuristic color. Electric Sculpture, fresh hop West Coast IPA. They have it's Citra. It's mostly Citra from CLS hops and Boxy. It is like it's about a month old and definitely I think lost some, but it's a good base beer. Like I could take it's still a very good beer, but not like the greatest West Coast IPA I've ever had. It's pretty solid though. I've heard really good things about this brewery. A lot of people really like them. So I'm excited to try more. I love the can art, and this beer is solid. But yeah, it's a fresh hop that's a month old, and what are you going to do? Yes. We're learning lessons for everyone. Stop drinking your 7-week-old fresh hop beers. But they're just still there, and I feel bad. Someone's going to buy them. They're still on the shelves. We must have reached like fresh hop capacity. Like they're still hanging around, even at like bottle shops that turn over their product often. Like they still have them. but yeah, it's a so pretty solid here today. Brewery Kitchen. I've definitely looked forward to check out more of their stuff, and hopefully, I looked at their Instagram, and all of their cans are really cool looking. So I appreciate good can art,
Yes.
and I'm
It's
curious
important.
to see what their kitchen is like. It's somewhere up in Seattle. I don't know exactly where, but I want to check it out here today.
Yeah.
Um.
All right.
Anyway, so want to make that short and sweet. Let's get into some basketball, which I
Woo!
know we love talking about.
And we got lots of fun,
and we have-
exciting stuff to talk about, man.
Lots of fun, exciting stuff. Obviously, I went this weekend. I got to see both basketball teams play. We'll start with the men's team. Great weekend for
Yes.
them. That Bradley game, I was legit nervous about it.
Yep.
You're playing a top 100 Ken Palm team with a solid defense, a team that is picked to, win or be close to winning their league, which is a
Yep.
league that Drake is in, like that we
Yep.
played last year.
Not a terrible league.
So yeah, not a terrible league. And they came out, and especially like even in the first half, they looked like they were the better team. The shots weren't falling as much. Unfortunately, Cedric Coward got unbelievably posterized at the end of the first half. I was right there, right behind the bench.
It's true. Yeah.
Right in front of me.
That was
And
very
that
unfortunate.
That was
Poor guy.
might have been one of the best, besides Mo at UW a few years ago, but one of the better
Yeah.
posters I've ever seen. But good way to try to block the shot, and Coward did block a shot later, which they called
Yeah.
BS foul on.
Yeah.
So and we've seen him block dunks a couple times now. So
Yes.
you know what? Try it. It's fine.
Yeah. I appreciate
no one
the
will
effort.
remember
I
it.
definitely
Dunk,
appreciate
nothing.
the effort.
Yeah. But they came out that start of that second half was something unreal. After this team were very worried about the defense, obviously, but they held Bradley to a single point, I think, through the first 8 or it's like 6 or 7 minutes. And while they scored 19, so they went on a 19-1 run to build a big ass lead, push it up to 22, I think. And it was pretty much over at that point, and they coasted to a win against a very solid Bradley team. They held some good players on offense on Bradley to some rough nights. Obviously, still allowed over a point per possession, but everything's on a scale at this point with this defense. After what they gave up against Portland State, And so that was such a satisfying win. To get a win, that it's kind of like, because you're kind of like, where are we at? Well, we're at a point where we could beat like a 80 to 90th best team in the country by 20 points. And that's not an easy thing to do. Like we've seen teams like USC narrowly beating UT Arlington. Fucking UW needing a being down 13 in the first half to Seattle Pacific. These early season games can be rough, but they locked in and they beat what seemed like a pretty evenly matched game, and they just rolled through it, and they looked like just a better team all around. And they beat a really good defense. They put up, I think, like 1.2 points per possession on them, which is just that's really good. Like Bradley's not going to have a lot of teams that score that much against that.
I'll kind of add to that for just a sec. Like Bart Torvik does individual game adjusted efficiencies, and when you take into account the quality of Bradley's defense, this was the equivalent of putting up 1.3 points per possession against an average defense. So it was a really, really, really good offensive performance.
And then they come Idaho on Monday. They got down 7-0. This is kind of like these slow starts. They had a real bad start against Portland State, obviously.
And it's usually turnovers too. Like that's the thing. They're usually giving the ball away is the issue.
Yeah. And so it's but then they really buried Idaho after that, really. The they outscored it by a bunch after that. And what was real nice is Idaho pulled back to 11, and that's always going to be a dogfight against Idaho. Like they're gonna like play hard as they'll play all season against Wazoo. And these guys play each other.
Maybe a little dirty.
Maybe a little dirty.
Just a little.
And these guys play against each other, just pick up games during the summer a lot. Like these guys all know each other, and they're used to playing against each other. Like that Isaiah Watts point, that there was a lot behind that, I guarantee.
Yep.
Yeah, and he almost did it again later.
He did. He did. He almost got himself thrown out of the game. And then he was like, oops. Oh, no,
like,
I didn't. I wasn't pointing. Just kidding. I didn't do that.
But yeah, Idaho, but again, another great offensive performance. They've scored over 90 in every game, which obviously is a product sum of they're averaging like 8 adjusted tempo, at least 8 possessions more per game than last year, and tempo's up overall on the season, so they're probably actually averaging more than that.
Yep.
And so if you're talking about like 8 possessions a game, what does that even mean? If you are an offense that averages 1.1 points per possession, the average this year so far is insane. It's like 1.06. It's the biggest offensive start to a season in a long time for college basketball overall. But if you're like 1.1, which I think this team will be a lot, that's 10. That's almost 10 points a game more, like to distribute among your players, and everyone gets a piece. And so we'll see some big points. We see like 5, 6, 7 guys in double figures.
Yep.
And that's fun. What was most impressive against Idaho is that Cedric Coward only had 3 shots, 4 points, and they still put up over 90.
Yep.
And so there's just so many scorers on this team. We're just not used to that. Like everyone has a green light. Everyone should be. And then we got to talk about Andy Okafor.
Yeah.
And he just. And I'll let you talk about it, but he just adds an element that they didn't have before that they will, if they want to be a tournament team, it's an element that they need.
Yeah. I mean, he's so Andy Okafor, transfer from Cal, supplements the transfers from Eastern that are starting front court, right? Ethan Price, Dane Erickstrip, and I think Alyssa Charleston, who friend of the pod, Alyssa Charleston, right? Who was the the color analyst on the game on Monday against Idaho. I think she put it kind of perfectly. She said Ethan Price and Dane Erickstrip are just 6'11" wings, which they obviously play post defense or whatever, but offensively they're wings the way that they operate. They are around the 3-point line. They don't really post up. They slash a little. So anyway, I'll put all those things together. That's what they do. And we sort of noted in the first 2 games, obviously we haven't talked on the podcast since the first game, but, on Twitter, in the Slack, things like that, we just kind of talked about like, hey, I mean, at some point this team is going to need an athletic interior defender, to help with some of these teams that have an interior presence. And, Price and Erickstrip, God bless them, lots of hustle, but they're not, super athletically gifted guys. Okafor brings that. He's 6'9", he's 235, 240, whatever. Comes into this game, first game he plays because of injury. He missed, most of last season with an injury. And he immediately looks the part, right? Like he is finishing around the basket. He's getting offensive rebounds. He blocks a couple shots. Whatever. This is against Idaho. Idaho's interior athleticism is not, what anybody else is going to be. So, I mean, yada, yada, all that stuff. But at the same time, he looked really, really good. And it not just that he looked really good, but he looked, when you envisioned, okay, we need a guy who does this, this, and this. He looked like that guy. And
Well, he's willing to go after the ball. He's willing to go after a block. He's willing to go after rebounds. How many big guys have we had in the past that look the part and just have they just don't do what you expect them to do? But he was doing all that. Yeah, it was against Idaho, but I've seen guys of his stature not go chase rebounds and not go chase blocks against those against Idaho's of the world. And so I thought it was very impressive. It was a really good soft landing for him to get some confidence. The team gets some confidence in him because Iowa next is going to be a much bigger challenge. If the defense has shown improvement, this is the stress test. Iowa, which is one of the best offenses in the country.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa is basically us, but like with, however many like standard deviations better, like maybe one standard deviation better of talent, right? That's kind of where it's at, because stylistically, pretty much the same. The way they want to play. I mean, this game. So hopefully you listen to this podcast before the game Friday night. We're recording this Thursday night. Game's Friday night, Big Ten Network. I don't know, 5:30, I think. And but it's like it's going to be a lot of points are going to be scored. There's going to be a lot of tempo. Both of these teams love pushing the ball and pushing the ball and pushing the ball. Like a lot people think of certain things when they think of Big Ten basketball, and rightly so. Iowa is the counterfactual to that. Iowa, they play fast. They are offense under Fran McCaffrey. And they are fun as hell to watch. We are super fun to watch right now. This game's going to be really, really fun. And so like, I kind of love the scheduling that we did here, where it's like, okay, we're playing a tough team, playing them on the road, ostensibly on the road, right? Like we're going away from Pullman, games in, Moline, Illinois, which is like an hour east of Iowa City. So,
and next to one of the big population centers of Iowa, which has got to be mostly Iowa fans,
right? So it's going to be loaded with Iowa fans. So we're going to go on the road. It's a quad one opportunity. It's going to be a quad one opportunity. And so you go on the road to this game, but you're playing a team that's good, but you're also not playing, I don't know, like Virginia, right? Where it's like you're not playing a team that is like superlative at trying to take away the things that you want to do, right? Like Iowa is not going to do that. Iowa's going to try and outscore you. We're going to try and outscore them. And I think like from a scheduling perspective, it was a really savvy move to pick up a game against Iowa because, maybe we don't win, but I also think like, I don't know, I'd rather play a team that matches us stylistically if you're an offense first team. And the inverse would be true if we were like a super duper defense first team, right? Like I'd rather not play a really exceptional offense if we're a super defense first team. Well, it's a very offense first team. I don't want to play a super exceptional defense. Great. Iowa's not that. The game's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. And like you said, it's a stress test. We're going to see the defense been getting better every game. We're going to see if that's actually legit. The great thing about a college basketball season is one game does not define you. And, so it's a huge opportunity. You win this game. Now you got a quad one in your pocket. You lose this game. Whatever.
You win this game and it does sort of define you a little bit as a team.
Yeah, that's true.
Pushing for the NCAA tournament. Like
that's a good point.
You win this game and you suddenly look like an NCAA tournament team.
For sure. You're probably getting top 25 votes at that point.
Yeah. And then you're looking at those upcoming games against Nevada and Boise State as even bigger because wow, they have an opportunity for something here.
Yep.
So yeah, this is I was horrified of this game before the season started because I just I was like, we have Eastern's team and stuff, but I will say like these guys, a few in particular, Ethan Price is more than what I expected. He's a versatile offensive player.
I love him.
He's a solid, like decent to solid defender. He's got a big body. He can move. And then Cedric Coward he's taken, from what I saw, like he's better than he was last year.
Yep.
And he is such an athletic dude, plays way bigger than his 6'6" frame.
Yep.
And then my official favorite player on the team is Lawan Watts. Like,
Lawan Watts. I knew that was coming.
He is so fun. I unabashedly, one beautiful thing about college basketball that is something you rarely see outside of like Charles Barkley in the NBA is like a 6'5", 6'6" stout four that just like wrecks shop, gets boards, plays defense, has post moves, and he hits threes too. Like he's just a really fun player. Like he is such a college basketball player. Like such a quintessential good, fun college basketball player. And like he's so good. Like I'm so happy that you know Riley was able to bring him and Coward down because they really add like they both look like high major players. Yeah. Like they're both like athletically skill. I think both of them could fit right in at you know you know in the old Pac-12 in the Big 12 in the Big 10 whatever. Like they would be fine. You know, maybe they wouldn't be like the stars, but they would be good players. But yeah, I'm really happy to have them. They're both really fun to watch. And in this type of game, you know, Iowa is the same way. Like they don't have a super big team, but their main kind of front court player DeBelle is DeBelle and Freeman. DeBelle plays a little bit more, but Freeman's standard 6'10", 245. DeBelle's 6'8", 255. So they're going to need some muscle to. Yeah. He's getting offensive boards. They don't as a team get a ton of offensive boards, but those two guys when they're on the floor are very good at getting offensive boards, and they're kind of the only ones on the team that do it.
I want to point out what Craig means by very good. They are, each one of them is above. They're both like, okay, Freeman's at 16%. So when his own team misses a shot, he grabs 16% of those misses. Like Dembele's like
every 6 almost
17%. It's so to kind of try and put those numbers in context, like people who rebound like 8 or 9 or 10% of their team's own misses. So for offensive rebounding, like that's considered like pretty good. And so these guys are like exceptional. Now that may have to do with opponents, whatever. They've like Iowa. I guarantee you, Iowa's looking at this game against us kind of the same way we're looking at it against them. Like they haven't played anybody. And so they're looking at this as, okay, hey, this is a top 100-ish team. How are we going to do against a top 100-ish team? So going to be very, very, very interesting because they've kind of beat up on some bad teams. But, you know, like us, they've got weapons all over the floor. You know, they push the tempo, really, really push the tempo. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's going to be super fun. I'm excited to watch it because, again, it's sort of an everything to gain, nothing to lose kind of game. You know, you lose this game, you're supposed to lose. And I honestly can't, I don't know. I mean, maybe if we get just like absolutely just run off the floor, maybe that, you know, discourages me. But honestly, other than that, I'm not sure I can think of a scenario where I walk away from this game, you know, discouraged or feeling bad or whatever. I mean, you know, if we were going to play a league full of Iowas, that'd be one, but we're not. You know, we know that. We're not playing a league full of Iowas. We're playing a league full of Bradleys, basically. And so we already kind of know we can compete at that level. So unless we get run off the floor, I'll feel pretty good about whatever happens. And, you know, if somehow we win, man, I'm going to be like, fuck yeah, man, it's party time. We're like, let's go get that. Let's go get that auto, not the auto bid, but let's go get that large bid. Yeah.
Yeah. It should be fun. You know, if they're going to shoot a bunch of threes and they're going to make a bunch of threes.
Yep.
Maybe they don't make as many as they want. We kind of give up a lot of threes, so they're definitely going to get their threes. So that's going to be a big part of it. But they got 3 guys that are well over 40% from 3 in Sandfort, both the Sandforts, sorry, and then Dix. So yeah, there's 2 Sandforts. Good luck with that. They are
Yeah,
slightly
that'll
different
be fun.
sizes. But yeah. But they basically one of them shoots a lot more than the other one. But yeah, it'll be fun. I'm glad we don't do score predictions for that, but
No,
let's so that's
whatever
big.
it is, man. It's first to 100, dude. First to
Yeah.
100 wins that game.
Yep. And then probably before we record again, they play Ryder at home on November 19th. So
Oh, well.
we'll see.
That's very
see how that
exciting.
goes. Yeah. Or sorry, no, that's sorry. I'm looking at Iowa. Sorry, I'm an idiot.
I
keep
was like,
looking
yeah,
at the
that
wrong
didn't sound
freaking-
familiar.
I was like, we don't play Ryder. Yeah, we play Northern Colorado, which actually on
Yeah,
Monday,
there we
that
go.
could be
There we go.
Northern Colorado looks decent enough, and obviously
Yeah.
another Big Sky, a team that will be familiar with many of our players.
Yep.
Yeah, and then Eastern after that.
Up in Spokane.
Won't be any. Are there any players left on that team? I don't know. Yeah. So let's transition to the women. We actually can look at Bart Torvik.
I know. This is so exciting.
Bart. We
Thank
can
you,
do our
Bart.
same sort of analysis like that we do for the men. It makes me so happy to have that. So obviously the women again lost to Stanford. We don't need to talk about that. That's like 70,000th time in a row.
Man. I'm so tired of that shit. I can't even like. You watch that game, right?
Most of it, like
Okay,
it's
all
always one big stretch that just buries
Yes.
them against Stanford.
Well, and it's always also like there's just so in the women's people who don't watch a lot of women's basketball, maybe you don't sort of know this, but like the elite level teams, and Stanford may not be elite level at this point or whatever, but like when you're talking like the top 10, top 20 type teams, there's like an athleticism and a physicality to their players that just is not equally distributed throughout women's basketball, right? That tends to be very concentrated in the top 10 to 20 teams. And like Stanford, again, it's like you watch the game and it's like, fuck, like they just, like they're big and they are athletic and they are strong and they just bully the shit out of us. And there's and then it doesn't help. They shoot, I don't know, fucking 70% from three or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's just like, whatever, man. Like it's so fucking annoying. Like I'm like over it. I'm sick of it. I just, whatever, man, whatever. Forget it.
What's funny? It's funny, Jeff. Torvik does his game scores.
Yes.
The Eastern game score, beating Eastern in overtime was only a 31 for WSU. Getting blown out on the road by Stanford was a 60.
Yes. It was a
so
60.
that just tells you the difference between those two teams. Like
our adjusted defense in that game was lower than our adjusted offense in that game because Stanford's offense is so fucking
So
good. Giving up 1.35 points per possession to Stanford is like giving up 1.07 points to a regular, normal, average-ass team. Whatever.
and only
Fucking
and only
hate 'em.
scoring 0.93 points per possession is like
Yes.
scoring a
Is like scoring
1.1 points per possession against an
average team.
So yeah,
It's ridiculous.
I love that Torvik does that. And then they played Idaho on Sunday, and I saw that game. Definitely, Idaho gave them a little bit of trouble at times, but they kind of had the game in control for most of the way.
Yes.
It wasn't. I'll say. Diana Mendez got her first big run in that game.
The girl. So by the way, for people who don't know, this is the girl who Cammie Etheridge says has the talent to potentially be the best player to ever play at Washington State. Like that's an important piece of context here for whatever Craig's about to say.
Yeah. So they definitely fed her when she was in the game. Her usage rate was super high. She struggled to make shots, but you saw it there. Like you saw the talent. Like she got herself in the right spots. She could block shots. she was bullied a little bit by like the bigger post from Idaho. And she kind of like, and then she kind of hit some threes over her too. But I could definitely see there were some nice aspects. She drew a lot of fouls. She was active. She was active on defense. She had block shots, steals, all that. So I think, if she hits like one more layup, everything looks a lot better.
Yes.
But she made 5 of 6 from the line. I'm excited for her. It's interesting that her and the difference, her and Colville's so like, she obviously has her limitations defensively in foot speed and stuff, but she is such a monster protecting the rim. Like it's such she is so good at blocking shots. It's like a unique skill that less than 10 people have in the country. It's crazy.
She's blocking 14% of opponents' 2-pointers when she's on the floor, that's a lot.
Nuts.
That's a lot.
Yeah, like it's pretty. Like if someone goes up on her, like she's gonna block it. Like it's, but on offense, she's struggles with turnovers.
Yep.
She can hit jumpers. Like she has some like. She's skilled, like she can make shots, but she just turns the ball over too much, and that's tough. So it would be good if Diana could step in, take more of those minutes, especially if she can have some defensive prowess as well. She had a couple blocks. WSU had a ton of blocks against Idaho. I think they had like 9 or 10.
Yes.
Say both men's and women's team. But yeah, and then. Other players, Ella Villa has struggled with her jumper a little bit so far, and she does look like she's ready to kind of take a big role in the offense. If some of those jumpers fall, it'll change for her. Save for Tara, she hasn't hit threes like we know she can, but I love the way how aggressive Tara has been this season.
Yes,
like that is something you've just been hoping to see from her for years. And she knows that she's one of the top players on this team now, and she's one of the go-to players, and she acts like it. And so she attacks the rack. She is a mismatch for a lot of players that end up guarding her. Either they're too small or they're too slow. And so I'm excited to watch her throughout the season. I love how she's played. Tahina is Tahina, like she's hitting threes. She is just kind of doing her thing. Like, she makes some wild passes sometimes, but she's really like cut the turnovers down quite a bit, which I appreciate. She could also another one that could make a few more jumpers and she'll be good. She's always going to struggle around the rim because of her size. But she's just a smart player, and
the mid-range game is so good.
Well. Yeah,
mid-range game's so good. Like,
once those, she really hasn't hit the mid-range jumpers as much yet, and once those fall, like she'll be a big threat. So, and like Abraham and Dart, and they've looked at freshmen that are, making impacts here and there. Like that's nice to see, legit freshmen. They've really pushed Gardner to the bench, after, she's playing less than she did last year.
She's really struggling to make much of an impact for sure.
Jenna, we're just hoping, I'd like to see more out of her, Jenna Villa.
That's a weird one.
Shoot. Yeah.
It's what you just said, like not shooting a lot, right?
Yeah.
And she, in theory, like that's her greatest weapon, right? Like she's a great shooter, really good spot up 3-point shooter, as we saw last year. But also at the same time, like I think we all were sort of hoping like she would take this big step forward, that she would become more of a more than a spot up shooter, right? And now we seem to have kind of gone backwards, like she's not even spot up shooting much, and she's also not doing much else offensively. But like I'm having also a hard time reconciling that, though. She seems to be doing so many other things well. Like the ball moves when it's in her hands on offense. She facilitates defensively. I think she's doing a really nice job defensively. So there's all that. So like I'm trying to balance that with the idea, like I think she should be scoring more. I don't know. Maybe it's in there. To me, it feels like she's passing up scoring opportunities when she should be taking them. So maybe that's kind of maybe that's it. But
yeah,
I think they're going to need more.
Her usage is 9% right now.
Yeah, which is
9%.
like comically low. So
yeah, she's only taken 9 field goal attempts.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. Which is, I mean,
three games.
That's why she is ceding minutes to Charlotte Abraham, right? Like, they're right now kind of fighting for the same minutes, and right now Abraham's a more productive player. So I don't know. Going to be very interesting to see how that shakes out. I still have huge, high expectations for Jenna Villa, but at the moment it's sort of like I don't know.
Yeah. So I sometimes players like that, that's just who they are. Like I don't see a player go from 9% usage to suddenly being, what was her usage last year was 14% basically.
Yeah.
So maybe she's not going to be a big shooter ever, but she did take 126 threes last year. So, it's a fair amount. But yeah, it'll be interesting to watch her, see if she could, be a little more assertive. Maybe if she hits a couple, she'll shoot more. She just hasn't shot well.
Yeah.
So I could see her just like, well, I didn't hit the last one, so I'm not taking this one.
Yeah. It's a fine line between forcing more shots and, playing within the offense, right? So I don't know. Something to watch.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they got a lot of talent. I'm excited to watch them throughout the year. And what do they got this week? They also in the future travel to Iowa in a couple weeks or 10 days. But this week they got a big one. They're going on Saturday. They're going at Texas Tech. So they got at Texas Tech, then they have 8 days off, and then they're at Iowa.
Yep.
So that's a big one. They have
Two
a
big
tournament
games.
in there. Maybe that's not showing up on Bart's thing, but don't they have a tournament in there somewhere too?
It's possible. It would probably be this one if it was one after Texas Tech. I'm not sure. I'll have to look. It's sorry, this is great radio right here. My computer's not loading up very fast. Women's basketball schedule. Here we go. It is nope. They just have 8 days off.
It's Thanksgiving. Yeah, it's at Thanksgiving.
Yeah. And then they've got the
off.
Discover Puerto Rico shootout the weekend after Thanksgiving. So
that's an interesting time to have 8 days off.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's a weird spot. Maybe it's just, I don't know, a function of weird WCC schedule.
It's weird they don't have like a random home game thrown in there.
Yep. A little weird.
Maybe it's like a really trying to get bang for your buck in every game, and they don't like they were trying to, because they have, we talked about earlier, they have some tough games, at Oregon, at Iowa, at Texas Tech, home against BYU, all in the non-conference. So,
yep.
So big game for them on Sunday. That'll be interesting to watch. ESPN Plus. You can watch it on ESPN Plus. That'll be good.
Yep.
4:00. So yeah. Briefly, Jeff, I wanted to. Soccer wrapped up their season. I have a real. So they finished on a good stretch. Won their last 3, 5-0 on Saturday. Very nice. Very impressive.
Hell of a way to finish.
Finished 8-5-6 on the year. 5-2-3 in conference. Just 3 points back of the conference leaders, Santa Clara Pepperdine. Now, Jeff, they had a lead late against Santa Clara, and they gave up a goal to draw.
Yep.
If they hold that lead, they have 21. They have 20. Santa Clara has 18. They had a late lead against Pepperdine.
Yep.
If they even just hold a draw against that, or draw in that game, they have 21. And Pepperdine, if you combine those two. So if those two games, if they were able to hold those late leads, they would have won the league and they'd be going to the tournament.
They'd be going to the tournament.
Yep.
But instead,
that is how close it was.
Yeah.
That is how close it was.
Yep. Very frustrating. They finished fourth in the WCC behind Santa Clara Pepperdine, who tied for first, and then Gonzaga third, and then us fourth.
1 point behind Gonzaga.
Yep.
It was a real tight race, actually.
It was.
You go down to sixth, and they're still only 4 points back of the leaders. So
yep.
So real tight race. Obviously, WSU came up just short. They finished strong. 5 goals in one game, where I guess they were finally tired of not putting the ball in the net.
Yeah, I guess.
And then volleyball, they had obviously. I think we might have already talked about. They went and played the two best teams of the league, and got swept by both at Loyola Marymount and Pepperdine. They came back home this past weekend and swept Pacific, and then took St. Mary's in 4, and then they swept Gonzaga, who is terrible. So they're currently sitting at 10-4 in conference. Probably not a shot at winning the league because LMU is at 12-1. And then 15-8 overall. They're no volleyball bracketology, so I don't know if they even have a shot. But I mean, I don't even know. Someone could probably tell me I'm an idiot, but they got 3 games left, right? 3.
Four. They got 4 games left.
4. So if they win all 4 of those, and they finish 14-4 in the conference and 19-8.
And
do they have an argument?
If they win all 4, that includes a win against LMU to end the season. So, you got a chance there to play against a team that is in first place right now, and I would assume pretty much a lock.
I got them at home
for the tournament. You got them at home. Right? Yep. So you got at
night
Portland.
Before a football game, or day before a football game. It's at 1 p.m. I wish it was at 7. I don't know why it's not at 7. I would be going to it if it was at 7. Driving me crazy.
I know.
It's 1 p.m. Whatever.
Yeah. What are you doing? So you got at Portland on, looks like Saturday, at Oregon State next week. And then you got that weekend, San Francisco at home, LMU at home. I mean, you win all 4 of those. You're sitting at 19-8, including a win over Loyola Marymount, which has won at this point 9 in a row. So you're feeling pretty good. Maybe. Who knows? I don't know.
Who knows? I don't know either.
I don't know either. We don't know anything.
Volleyball bracketology.
Why are you listening to this podcast? We don't know shit. We don't know anything. Beer. We know stuff. We know beer. Whatever.
Well, Jeff, I'm impressed. We had 2 more. We've added to 2 basketball teams, and we are still coming in under an hour and a half right now.
Yeah.
Very impressive. We already promoted our stuff up top. We don't need to subject you to that again. But sign up for the premium subscription if you want a badass chat with a bunch of Cougs.
Hell yeah.
Weirdo Huskies bombing in. They don't care about us, but they have to comment on everything we say. But Jeff, so 8-1, go into 8-1 basketball team. Basketball teams are looking good. I'm feeling good. So of course, let's go fucking Cougs.
Yeah. Oh shit! I got to start the music. God damn it! This live thing. All right, hold on. Sorry.
Oh, let me talk some more.
Yeah. All right. Hold on.
Talk some more.
Here we go. Okay, here comes the music. It's very soft. There it is.
How long do we have to talk here?
Are you feeling it? Are you feeling the vibe?
I'm feeling it.
For another 45 seconds? God damn, I forgot. Shit! All right, well.
I drank my beer incredibly slowly. I'm not even IPA.
I know. I'm like, I mean, this is what's left here. This is
got my old Crimson.
This is my legendary lager right here. So I'm almost done with that.
I guess I was talking too much.
I don't know. Maybe there's probably some.
Anyways, again, Jeff, go fucking Cougs.
Go fucking Cougs, Craig. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated, but get vaccinated before they fucking ban them.
Yeah, before RFK Jr. fucking makes it so you can't. Join a union or support a union before they ban that shit too.